I'm Janie Gianotsos, founder of Reinvention Ready. Welcome to Reinvention Ready TV, where you can ignite your fires of possibility and discover how to make the rest of your life your best life. I am delighted to introduce to you my guest, Monique Verpoort. Monique is a registered social worker and certified practitioner in the modality of emotional freedom technique, EFT tapping, and she is the author of Is This All There Is? Living a Life Beyond Obligation. Monique has worked in the field of children's mental health for close to 20 years. Monique, welcome. I'm excited to chat with you today.
Oh, thanks, Janie. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you as well. Nice to be here.
Yes. So, Monique, tell me how you arrived at your journey today and what you do.
Well, yes, I am a registered social worker. And as you said, I work in the field of children's mental health. And I'm a trainer consultant. So basically, I work with professionals at a number of children's mental health organizations in Canada, but also we're located in parts of the States and in other parts of the world. So it's basically I train on a program that is geared towards children and their families to help them with issues of self-regulation so that they can respond from a regulated nervous system, if you will, rather than react and make choices that actually could make problems bigger than they need to be. So that's what I've been doing, basically, being in the trainer role versus frontline.
Uh-huh. And what made you realize that you wanted to change your path? That you wanted to
Yeah,
switch and pivot?
that's a great question because I love what the work I do in terms of what we stand for and how we're really improving people's lives in a big way. And uh, that has always been very important to me, is to do something meaningful, to be contributing in an important way like that. But I found that in a sort of clinical setting, when we look at a human being, there's more than sort of the thoughts. The focus is on CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy. So we're really working with people's thoughts and how that impacts feelings, and then how it impacts behaviors. And I really, as you do as well, we know we're more than our thoughts. We are multifaceted human beings. And so what I found to be really missing in that a clinical type setting is addressing sort of the spiritual and the subconscious aspects of who we are, and how that really influences so much of what we do. And we're only addressing part of the problem when we are just looking at thoughts. So it was just feeling like there are different ways of really exploring what's going on for somebody, that I felt there were other ways of looking at it, let's say. So I was searching for what is that way to really encompass those other pieces, those other aspects of our humanity. And so that was sort of the driving force, was, okay, I want to explore this further, because I had seen a lot of families or parents come in with children who had a lot of issues that were getting in the way of their success, and a lot of sort of beliefs and stresses and so on, that were kind of getting in the way of that parent being able to nurture their child and give the child what they needed. And so it was, okay, yes, this is great, we're addressing thoughts, but there's also a lot of sort of belief systems under there. There's a lot of day-to-day stresses with all the responsibilities. And so kind of having that in the back of my head as well, is what else can we offer somebody like that.
Right. And I think this applies what you learn. Did you learn a lot of these things by applying these in your own life, would you say?
Oh gosh, for sure, for sure. Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, I'm really sort of on a mission. I feel very purposeful in terms of applying or spreading the news about something that has worked so much in my life. Otherwise, I wouldn't be, so animated by it and revved up by it. But yeah, it was sort of the missing piece for me as well. I've always been kind of prone to a low grade depression from sort of all my life, and trying to explore why aren't I happier? What's getting in the way with my life enjoyment? and with looking for tools that could really help me in that regard. And when I found something that really improved my quality of life, it was like, oh my gosh, the potential to really be able to share this with the world, really, and help other people was the driving force for that. So yeah, very important.
That is wonderful. And so what made you jump? What made you let go of the clinical? I mean, you talked about that a little bit, but were there roadblocks? Was it scary? Tell me a little bit about what you went through sort of inside, as well as, the process of saying, okay,
Yeah.
I let go of something I've done for 20 years and I'm comfortable with, maybe not totally singing to my heart, but, tell me a little bit about that process of making the shift internally, externally, whatever you want to share.
Yeah. Well, I think I realized when I started to sort of discover this tool that was working really well for me and seeing that benefit my life, I was really pulled to know more about it and to sort of follow that path of certification, because I thought I want to really be able to work with other people in a way that I can't in sort of my current situation. Especially, I wasn't doing really that much or any at this point of frontline work, and it was this sort of feeling that there's a lot more here that I can be doing, that I can be serving, and I'm not having that opportunity in the job I'm doing on a daily basis. So I was looking for ways of, how do I encompass both? Because the reality was, Janie, I couldn't just quit my job and and go
Yeah.
off and explore and do what I wanted to do. That was not an option on the table. And so in terms of, obstacles, financially was a huge one. There's no doubt about it. And having sort of been in a very precarious financial situation before, and kind of, through this position I was in, having some stability, being able to save for my kids' education, being able
Mhm.
to contribute to, anything to do with the household circumstances, that was just a priority for me at that point in time as well. So it was kind of at loggerheads. And for the longest time, I had this feeling within myself of, I'm here, but how do I get over there? Like, the over there is where I want to be. And I want to, really get into that in a big way. But I couldn't see the, when you pole vault, right? You go from here and you vault over to the other side of the bridge. I just couldn't see how to get there. And so, yeah, just looking and thinking about, okay, how do I start that process of sort of, moving over there, if you will. And so really, the first thing was having a talk with my manager and saying, look, and she knew I was really interested in this too. I'd done little demos at her home for other staff. I did a big company demonstration back in 2012 with the whole company kind of there. So people knew where my heart was, which did make it easier. And I said, look, I really want to spend more time and energy to really, enhance my skill base so that eventually I can go off and do this work that really is calling me and pulling at my heart. And so I had asked for a 3-day work week, because I thought, well, that way I kind of have both. And my manager, although very sympathetic, was like, well, at this time, that's not really going to work, but, I will keep that in mind, and so on. And so eventually I did. What happened was I had a fall back in 2018, just before Christmas, and it ended up in a mild traumatic brain injury. And it really kind of was one of those life-changing moments. And so the interesting thing about that was that, I was preaching about self-care and taking care of yourself. And I was also on that journey of really delving into being a practitioner that I had, certified and everything. And then it kind of came to a halt. And I thought, I gotta look after me, because I can't work with people right now. I have this healing journey I have to work on and get through. And so that kind of, changed the course of my life again. It was like, okay, you're still passionate about getting this out into the world, but is it realistic for you to put all your energy and resources into doing this on the side, when I knew it would exhaust me? And I just wasn't being called to it in the same way, which is where there again, I said, how can I get this out Well, I'd already started writing a book about it, so I'm kind of jumping ahead, but
Yeah.
because the goal was, how do I reach more people? Like, it's fine and dandy to have a little, a little practice, but how do I get this out into the world in a bigger way? And so having a shorter work week as well allowed me to put more of my energy into kind of finishing this book and publishing it. So yeah, I think I
That's
answered your question
yeah, and
partially.
I always think it's so interesting, and I talk to other people, and I hear this a lot. It's no fun to have a fall and have a brain injury. I mean, that's
No.
not what you would wish for. But sometimes the things that you feel are the most detrimental or horrible end up being the best doors that open up new possibilities. And it sounds like I wonder if you hadn't fallen down, would you still be in a clinical setting? I mean, it's like you have to wonder why sometimes we
Yeah.
start to put those energies out there and what we want and what we want to manifest and bring into our lives, and it's sometimes they have a really funny way of coming
Mhm.
in, so we have to be open.
For sure. And as you say that, I think back to, little did we know about COVID appearing on the
Oh my
doorstep.
gosh.
And as I was able to work from home during the whole pandemic, and I still am actually, except for one day a week I go in, but having that job or that position was a lifesaver for me because had it was just for everybody. It was a very demoralizing period, and it created that stability. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, thank God, thank goodness I didn't quit my job, and I'm still doing this. Like, it really,
That worked out
yeah.
too.
So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's really interesting how these
Mhm.
things, you can't foresee this stuff, right?
Right, right.
You know,
If only, right? If only we had a crystal
yeah,
ball, we could.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I actually want to get into a little bit more about this EFT and tell folks who are listening today, what is EFT? I mean,
Mhm.
why should we pay attention to this?
Yeah. Well, EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques, and it's basically a form of psychological acupuncture, or acupuncture without needles. It's a form of acupressure where we actually use our digits, our fingers, and we either tap or rub on certain points on our face and upper torso. So we have, people are familiar with acupuncture. There are meridians, or a more scientific term that's referred to, and I'm trying. One of these brain things that happens to me still sometimes. It'll come back to me, but actually, science has discovered there are these pathways that run through our fascia or connective tissue that actually, when we apply pressure on the end points of these places that arrive at the surface of the skin. So that's why we touch these places on our face mainly, and our upper torso, but we have them all over our body. So depending on whatever the issue is, physiologically, is that we can get relief by releasing the pressure points at these acupoints. And so what that does is that when we, as I said, apply pressure and we breathe at the same time, the breathing piece is super important, right? So, in through the nose, out through the mouth. But actually, what we're doing is we are releasing these blockages of energy. So, energy, it's, emotion, energy and motion, emotions that get trapped at these certain junctures, within our body. We're also communicating to our emotional brain, our limbic system. And as we think of something that's distressing and we're applying pressure on these points, we're actually sending a message through the fascia to the amygdala, our threat detector, saying, it's okay, you're safe,
Wow.
you're calm, everything's okay. So it's almost like when you're in that state of whatever it may be, where you're dysregulated, so your heart's beating faster, and you're stressed out and you're sweating and whatever else is going on. You are actually calming your system, so that whatever was bothering you in that moment actually stops bothering you, and you can feel the de-escalation happening in your body. And the body demonstrates that by things like yawning or sighing, or some people laugh, some people
Mhm.
pass gas, whatever it is, right? It's a
You're
it's a
getting
release.
rid of what you no longer need, right?
Exactly, exactly. And it is so cool when you work with somebody, or if you do it on yourself, which is really what I'm trying to get out there, that people can actually do this for
Mhm.
themselves, is that, you may start to smile, or you can feel giddy because you're letting go of sort of all this heavy duty tension and emotional baggage that you're actually carrying within your
Wow.
body. So very simple technique, but
Yeah.
super powerful, and just amazing. And I love it because it's accessible to every single person that could use a little bit of a tune up.
Yeah, and it doesn't require any extra equipment, or I
No,
mean, as long as you have a way to touch your points, that's all you have to do, right? I
it's
mean,
free. That's the best
yeah,
part.
yeah, yeah. That's that's
Yeah.
that's great. So I
Mhm.
want to talk to you a little bit about, you have this lovely book, and let's talk a little bit about writing book.
Mhm.
How, like, I know there's got to be a lot of people listening that say, there's a book in me. I
Right.
know I want to get this book out to the world. Like you said, I wanted to reach more people. Sound like your why was going beyond one-on-one or group sessions of EFT and saying, if
Mhm.
I write this book, more people can benefit from this. Was that helpful? Or what really kind of lit the fire to get you to actually put the words on the pages and create a book? Because that's, so many people have this book inside that never gets out. So you did it.
Mhm.
I want to know how you did it.
Okay. Well, you know what? I must say this might be, an answer that people cannot relate to, but I'm going to flip it around. Is that I really think that this was a book that came to me from somewhere else,
Yep.
from the divine, from the universe, whatever. I felt like I was channeling it because it was a very easy write. And it took me about a year. I wrote on weekends mostly, and then through some summer vacation. And I think the table of contents within 45 minutes. I
Wow.
had it down. Yeah. So it really was something that was in the works for a long time. And I think for me, because the passion was so great, I really feel it was a calling, that it was something, I have to do this. And it wasn't something I could ignore or hem and haw about and go, oh, should I write this book? Oh, I don't know, maybe not. It's too much work. I never had any of those sort of, stop signs coming up for me.
Mhm.
And I think it's too because I love languages. I speak a number of them. I'm sort of very particular about English and grammar and all that stuff. I'm a little bit of a nerd that way. So for me, it was a pleasure. And I'm also very introverted. So I'm much more comfortable writing than I am speaking. Well, I got
Mhm.
to say that's changed a lot too with the tapping. That has been a nice byproduct,
So,
right?
so tapping has helped you be more extroverted, or?
It's helped me find my voice.
Oh,
It's helped me
that's
find my
cool.
voice and express my
Oh,
voice, which a lot of can be a struggle for a number of women, just because we're,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Can we talk about
And
that a little bit? That is like
yeah,
so cool. I want to hear about
yeah,
that.
for sure. Just well, for me in particular, and I think some people can relate to this, when you're in a one-on-one situation, it's a lot easier to kind of speak, and you have a sympathetic ear, and you don't censor yourself, maybe in the same way when you're in a meeting with a lot of people sitting around a board table, right? A
Sure.
boardroom table. And and I remember just carefully, anytime I'd want to say something, I'd be like censoring myself in my head. Oh, is it okay if I say this? What might the response be to that? And et cetera, et cetera. So the bottom line was I usually shut my mouth, and I didn't really speak up. And so the tapping has helped me very much move through that to a place where, I really don't give a,
Yep.
what anybody thinks, right? If this is
Mhm.
how I feel, and regardless. So instead of always going to what are they gonna think? How are they gonna receive this? It's just having that spontaneity to be able to actually, say what's on your mind, right? And do it in a way that is, of course, in a way people can receive it.
Sure. Yeah.
But I always find when you speak from the heart, you have that intention, people, they pick that up. They pick up that
Mhm.
heart energy, and they hear it very different. Yes, you say it with a smile on your face, and you're respectful. And so that was a really big side effect, and a very positive side effect, I would say, of the tapping, because I worked through a lot of stuff related to that. Tapping helped me find the origins of where that came from, and I could release the energy energetic charge around those events that led me to believe that what I had to say wasn't important, because that was the belief I had. I have nothing important to say, and nobody's interested in what I have to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, that ran my life. And of course, I wasn't aware of it to that degree, but boy, my subconscious was, radiating that belief. And once again, with tapping, I was able to smack that one down. And another one was that ruled my life up until, I would say, probably 7 years ago, was I'm stupid. That was a big one. And once again, it's the events, we draw conclusions from things that happen to us often in early childhood, and then we look for evidence that that's true, and we can find it if we're looking for it. So the tapping helped me immensely. I worked with a practitioner through that one. But I would say within half an hour and a floodgate of tears, it was Niagara Falls, I was able to totally eliminate that. And it has not impacted me ever since then. So this is the power of using something like tapping, because it allows us to work through that emotion. It helps us to access those the subconscious beliefs, but also the sort of universal messaging that we can get when we're in a regulated place and we're not in our place of fear. And so that's a beautiful byproduct of using something like tapping.
Yeah. And I'm curious. So you said it helped you get to the root. Do you actually, like, are there repressed memories or things like that happen when you're a child, or what did you mean by that? I mean, does it things actually come up, or it's just it releases, but you don't know why?
Well, people have different experiences. And, in my case, that situation is that I was tapping on sort of, just reflecting, right, on, why am I feeling this way kind of thing. And what happens is, like, sort of memories can come up and I go, oh, yeah. Like, I distinctly remember being at the blackboard in elementary school. I don't know how old I was, 8, 10, whatever. Already feeling, because I learned differently from others, I'd had a very slower, I felt, in my perception, slower processing ability. I was always the kid. It took longer for me to answer a math question or to do an assignment. And so that feeling started very early on, with school, is that, I'm not as smart as everybody else. Right? Or being called up to the blackboard and asked to explain a math problem when I had no idea, and just being in that freeze mode of like, oh my God, I've got 30 pairs of eyes looking at me here and I don't know what I'm talking about. And so that was the genesis, that was the beginning of it. And then, after that, just those feelings, whenever I'd be in a situation where I didn't understand something, it would be, okay, see, I'm stupid. And then that carrying on throughout my adult years and everything. So
you actually went right back to the blackboard and remembered all of that, and were able to say, well, give that little girl some love and know that that's belief is not a truth. It's just a belief from a past memory and experience, and let it go then. Wow.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
And then you said some people have different experiences. So are there some people that just feel release, but they don't have those memories? It just helps.
Yeah, that can happen, especially if you have trauma and you have repressed memories. So I want to talk about that, because even though tapping is very simple and it's wonderful to do this, I always caution, always, in terms of due diligence, is for people to know that you might be tapping into something unexpected that your subconscious has repressed because it's too painful to actually go there. And if you suspect that there's a lot of unresolved trauma, this is something you don't want to work out on your own. You can use tapping as a simple sort of stress management, because it's multi-layered in terms of what you can do. It's also a therapeutic intervention. A lot of counselors, social workers, psychologists are incorporating tapping or EFT tapping as one of their tools on their toolkit. And if you suspect there's more going on for you that is really causing you a lot of misery, that's something that I would recommend, is do that in the safety with somebody who is ideally certified in this, or has very a strong clinical understanding of, going where the client is at, not going faster, not diving right into the trauma. you want to really, respect that, because you can tap into some of those things that have been hidden, as I said, and all of a sudden they're coming up, and you don't know what to do with it, right? And the good thing about tapping, if that does happen, it does help. In terms of something comes up and you tap, you can reduce it just by simply tapping.
Mm.
You might not be able to talk because something's coming up, but you can tap through it, and just you can feel yourself de-escalating. That emotion can just diminish. But it is a sign that, hey, you might want to go get some help with that. But
Yeah.
so that's what I mean, that you can often, this does happen, that you can have memories that come up,
Mhm.
or insights, that insights are great because it's things that we don't really think about anymore, but something could pop up and go, oh, that happened to me a lot, because when I was even writing the book and reflecting and doing some tapping, I go, oh, I forgot about that experience. um like, one of the things too around that whole theme of not having a voice was that I lived in France for about 5 years, and I was, I was learning my French, and I really wanted to excel at it because that's part of my personality, as well as that perfectionist piece, right? And having some French kids sort of laugh, when I opened my mouth, right? And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, I'm not saying anything anymore, right? and and so, like, little things like that, and so you can kind of think about it and tap through the emotion. If it's still, it could be, that's a kind of silly example, but that I would never have thought about that, or disappointing somebody and going, oh yeah, like that was pretty that was pretty heavy duty at the time. I haven't given that, thought to that in a long time. So it's very cool, how that works.
That is cool. Yeah, and your book, I think, does a great job talking about kind of those layers of tapping and what you can do on your own, what you might want to do. And I think, was it a group setting and then with a therapist or something like it? Like, I know it was like there were 3 layers, and I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
bronze, silver, and gold,
Bronze,
and
silver, and gold.
I
Yeah.
borrow that from my mentor, amazing woman, Nancy Forrester, giving her full credit for the terminology. And the bronze tapping is just, simply no words, just tapping on those points. And if you want, at one point, we'll do a little tapping
Yeah.
exercise.
Yeah.
But that is something that is very simple and doesn't require words, because people can get intimidated by the words. Like, they're working with somebody, or they hear something on the internet and they're like, I don't know what to say. What am I supposed to say? And then they kind of don't give it a chance. And so it's such a shame. And we know with tapping, this works with, traumatized populations in Rwanda, in
Mhm.
other places in Africa, all over the world, where there's people that perhaps don't speak English.
Mhm.
And so just the fact of having them think about something that is traumatic and tapping on these points in a group, there's
Mhm.
something with working through the nervous system, but the energy, the supportive energy of the tribe or the group, that really helps with the healing process. So so bronze tapping is something, just as I said, tapping on those points and rating yourself before. How are you feeling now?
Mhm.
If I'm like, I'm super angry right now about something, how angry am I? Well, I'm a 10 out of 10 right now. Okay, so, and then tapping through it. And then after a couple of rounds, how am I feeling? Well, I'm not as angry when I think about that situation. I'm kind of a 6 right now. Oh, okay, great. Let's keep tapping. A couple more rounds. How am I feeling now? I'm tuning in mentally. It doesn't really bug me. you
Wow.
know?
Yeah.
And so this is how fast it can go. So it's a great in the moment, stress reliever,
Mm.
or, a great in the moment mood enhancer, or mindfulness activity, because when there's lots going on and you're tapping, you're kind of focusing, you're in the moment, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
you start to breathe differently, your body relaxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. So that's the bronze. The silver is what you see a lot of on the internet. So
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
you'll have somebody doing some tapping rounds, using words, using very general kind of statements. And I do have some of that in my book as well, tapping scripts, just meant to get people to sort of get used to the points, to have some language to use. And but really it's more sort of general, and where the gold is when you're getting specific about what is going on for you,
Mm.
for you yourself or anybody else. And because then you're really zeroing in on all the aspects of whatever that problem is. So if you have something that's bothering you in the moment, what are the aspects of that? How are you feeling? What's going on in your body? Like, our feelings are held in our body. So it's addressing, okay, I've got this pain in my stomach. Oh, this pain in my stomach, this pain in my stomach, this huge pain in my stomach, trying to describe it. The pain, this I don't know, red pain in my stomach, this oval shaped pain in my stomach, and kind of just going through it and see what happens with the body. And then often what people have is that whatever the sensation is in the body, it actually comes down in intensity, or it can move. It can move to a different part of the body.
Wow.
And then you just go and you focus on that. Yeah, it's really interesting because it's like things shift, and then eventually whatever it is kind of leaves.
Wow.
Yeah, leaves the physical body, and yeah, and so that one is sort of the gold, and often people choose to use a practitioner for the gold. So the book is really for the bronze tapping, and also explaining sort of some of those, we call them psychological reversals. Basically, it's your psyche has this protective mechanism to keep you from feeling pain, and sort of keeping you in your comfort zone. And so with the tapping, you can address these sort of resistance statements, like, it's not possible for me to, be successful, or I don't deserve to have a lot of wealth, or I don't deserve to have my own needs met. These kind of beliefs that we can actually start to tackle, because we always have gains. It's to stay safe, right? That's the ultimate goal. And it kind of working with the brain and the body's energy and nervous system can shift how those beliefs actually take place.
Yeah, that's incredible. And would you say, it sounds like some things happen immediately, such as if you're angry, by tapping you can bring that anger down, but something that's a deep-seated, forgotten, buried memory that's causing you to feel like nobody cares what you have to say, how long? I mean, it's probably different with everybody, but do some people take like years of tapping therapy, or is it usually pretty fast when people start to
usually
experience?
pretty fast, not
Wow.
years. Absolutely not years. You can do it in a number of sessions. In my case, I did it in 20 minutes, or 20 minutes to half an hour, as I said, because we're able to sort of tap on, I mean, this goes back a little bit, but sort of the inadequacies around that, how it made me feel, that feeling of inadequacy, and shame, a lot of shame around that. When you have a belief, I'm stupid, lots of shame linked to that. So, and so being able to tap on the shame, all the shame about feeling stupid, all the shame about feeling like everybody knows things are, things better than I do, all that kind of stuff. And with tapping, it's speaking your truth, which is so freeing, because we are taught socially that it's not okay to sort of say what's on your mind, because you might get rejected, or you might be ostracized, or people won't love you if you speak your truth. And with tapping, you can actually, and I love this part, is that you just say, I'm feeling really crappy today. I'm crappy. I have no energy to do anything. The world sucks. like, who said that I'm supposed to be happy all the time? Like, what is that? And just give a voice while you tap, because that's the beauty. If you're not tapping, you're just venting, you can actually make the problem bigger, right? Because you're exaggerating the problem.
You're bringing more in, usually.
You're bringing more
when you
in.
continue to say, but that's interesting with tapping. What we have a tendency, I think, as humans to naturally do is exactly that. Oh, I feel so crappy today. Oh, I stink and the world's just terrible. And right, normally that makes you feel worse, but that's interesting, with these points on your face, and it can change your outlook, and then pretty soon you'd no longer feel crappy. So it's almost like it negates what you're saying in a way. It sounds like when you talk about pain, rather than denying it, you talk about it.
Exactly. Because what happens too is that when you feel these things, you start to judge yourself. Oh, I shouldn't be feeling this way. I should be grateful. I've got a roof over my head. I'm not as bad as my neighbor down the street who's really got huge problems. Like, what am I complaining about, right? So
Yeah.
we judge ourselves for feeling that way. And with tapping, it's all about acceptance of where you're at. I feel crappy right now. Yeah, I don't feel grateful, even though I probably should feel great. Well, I really don't, because you know what? I'm not feeling great today. I've got a really bad, back issue or headache or, whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
so it really releases something,
Wow.
you know, uh, within. And the thing too, you'll find if you have somebody perhaps who's dealing with, some of those darker, denser emotions like sadness,
Mm-hmm.
and they tap on that, what happens is that sadness has a lower vibration than anger does. So when you can get the sadness down often, anger will come
Mm.
to the rise, to the surface, because it's like, how dare that person treat me like that? Like, I didn't deserve that, and so you're tapping as you're voicing this. So
Uh,
that, and then your anger starts to subside, and then you can access those more elevated kind of emotions like hope,
mm.
and eventually you want to get to the joy and the
Yeah.
love, and
Higher
the
vibrations that
higher
we all want to
vibration.
be in, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Because I've seen tapping and I've tried it a little bit, but
Mhm.
it's so great to talk to you and get more detail, and the detail from your book when I read your book, it's like, oh, this is a lot deeper than I ever understood. I think I've seen
Mhm.
little bits and pieces on webinar kind of things. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. But wow, I mean, it's a powerful tool. It's a really,
It's a very
really
powerful tool,
powerful
and
tool.
you hit the nail on the head. Is that this book, I wrote it for a couple of reasons, but one of them was that either you have people who've never heard of this and are like, what do you mean the body's an energy system? Like, what is that? What are you talking about? And to open their eyes to how this works. And if you understand that there's more to the body than the physicality of it, and there is an energy or a life force that's animating us, then you can understand why tapping works. But you kind of need that. You need that awareness of that piece. And then people like yourself who have heard of tapping, they've heard maybe really good things about it, don't really understand how it works. I really wanted to dive a little deeper in terms of helping people understand, why this is such a powerful tool, as you
Mhm.
said, which it is, and how it can be life changing. I have met so many people, and I have witnessed so many people who become better versions of themselves, happier versions of themselves. People who say, without tapping, I wouldn't be here today.
Wow.
This is the power of it. And our world is a hurting world.
Mhm.
And I'm sure anybody listening to this can think of it's, if it's not themselves, it's somebody they know is really, really struggling.
Mhm.
And so for me, it's almost like an ethical obligation to really get this out there.
Yeah.
It's not something you can sit on when you know what the
Mhm.
potential is for this. And so, especially today, my goodness, there's so much hitting
Yeah.
us. And if we can do this sort of energy hygiene, and incorporate it into our daily lives, you can do this in like 2 or 3 minutes. You do it when you're having your coffee, or your beverage, or brushing your teeth at night before you go to sleep. Hey, it helps you fall asleep, right? Because you are relaxing your nervous system, you are
Mm.
calming your mind. And there's so many different ways of doing it, and there's no reason why not to do it. But
Yeah.
so, you know yeah.
Oh, I love this. Thank you. Yeah. And I think too, being women and that have been around the block a few times, you and I,
Yeah.
we a lot of women were raised just never to, you didn't show your feelings. You got, shushed, and you got the elbow if you opened your mouth. And, I think you tell a lot of stories in your book about clients too. And I can relate to many of those. I'm like, oh my gosh, I went through something similar. And then it's nice to know there is a solution out there. And even if we're older and we've repressed these things or dealt with these things or believed these things for decades,
Mhm.
a tap, session can completely wipe that slate
Mhm.
clean. And it doesn't matter how old you are. And I think it's great for kids too, because so many
Oh,
kids are stressed out. And so, people are watching this and have kids or grandkids, and teach them how to do it. Maybe,
oh,
get your book and learn how, and watch
yeah.
some videos, and get some scripts. And, I'm sure kids benefit from this tremendously too.
Oh my goodness, do they ever? That, I mean, that is the vision, is that, something like this becomes mainstream. It's used in classrooms at the start of the day, that parents are able to regulate themselves, so their kids aren't picking up on their anxieties and contributing to it. Because as parents, obviously, we're the ones that carry a lot of concerns, but our kids are picking it up energetically. They're so attuned to what's going on. So if we can kind of get our own house in order, and it's such a gift to our kids, right? Because they don't have to be concerned about mom or dad, or what the situation is. They have enough going on for themselves as it is. So why add to that? And then the connections, because a lot of parents too feel helpless with what's going on. It's how do they appease their child's fears? Well, if you can do this together, as you said, and the parent co-regulates with the child, so that it brings their anxieties down. They can make it fun for young kids. You can do this to music. You can create a tapping song. There's so many different ways of doing it. So making it sort of a fun thing.
I like that for adults too. I think we
Yeah,
should all have our own tapping song. That's pretty
yeah,
cool, you know.
yeah, exactly.
Find one you like and go through the tap.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I should, when next time I listen to my playlist, I usually dance to it, but
Yeah,
yeah, you can tap to it as
there
well.
you go.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I got to try that. That sounds like fun.
yeah.
I think anytime we can make anything fun, especially if it's a healing modality or something, it doesn't always have to be serious either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Totally. I totally am with you on that. And I wanted to just say one other thing too, and just about sort of the audience, perhaps, that could get something from the book, if you're okay with me kind of
Oh,
bringing that up.
yes.
Yeah, is this whole thing around especially women who have a lot of different roles, wearing a lot of different hats, whether you have children, whether you don't have children, whether you have commitments towards, in-laws, parents, grandparents, children, family, community, employer, where, you feel like you're pulled into so many different directions. I remember
Mhm.
feeling that way. And just, and just being so, depleted by it, and having no energy left over, and how difficult that is for so many men and women, but women especially, because they take anyway, part of it is our conditioning, right? We're
Yes.
there to help. A lot of
And
us are
some
people
men too.
pleasers.
Yeah, some
I
men
meant
have that
to.
same, yeah.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. And then boundaries, right?
Mm,
Maybe those weren't modeled. Healthy, strong boundaries weren't modeled for us by our parents, and so that it's so ingrained in terms of wanting to make others happy, not wanting to let people down, wanting
mhm.
to be seen as a good person, not a selfish person. Like, all these things can come into play,
Yeah.
and tapping can help us develop strong boundaries so that we can have more energy for ourselves. We don't feel guilty or bad. And we are able to really improve our quality of life, because we're taking time for us, and because now we believe we deserve it, and our needs are just as important as anybody else's.
Oh, I like
And
that. Yeah.
yeah, and then by extension, the beauty of that is that you've got, anybody in your entourage, your family or whatever, they benefit because they've got this fully this person who's fully there and that can
Mhm.
give. And so yeah, it's just, yeah, all around just a great thing.
That's awesome. So I'm hoping now we get to try this, right? So you
Yeah.
said we can do a little tapping exercise. So um yeah, take it away.
Okay, so first of all, maybe what we can do is just, I'll point out the points as we
Okay.
go. I think we'll start with the bronze tapping, which is just sort of tapping on those points. And then
Okay.
and then I'll take people through one where there's just simple wording that goes with that. So there's different ways to do it. There we have what we call the side of the hand point. So if you look where your pinky is, it's the fleshy part,
Mhm.
and you can take like 3 fingers from your, if I'm right-handed, I would take 3 fingers from my right hand, and I would just gently tap along sort of that side of the hand.
Mhm.
And if you use 3, you can't miss the point.
Mm.
And so as you're doing this, and we're doing this without words, the first one, but so just practice tapping and breathing. So breathing in through the nose and breathing out through the mouth. Maybe do it again. In through the nose and out through the mouth. And then we're going to pass to the eyebrow point, which is where your eyebrows start. So you can use one hand, you can use one side of your face, you can use both. I like to use two. I kind of feel it's like double the fun here. Same thing. So you gently tap. This is not about, really pounding your face. It's about gently tapping, or you can tap and breathe. So you touch and breathe rather, so you can actually apply pressure. You can breathe in and you breathe out. And then you move over to the side of your eye. So there's that bone right at this either side of your eye. Once again, I'm doing both here. So I'm tapping. You can tap like 5 to 7 times.
Can we use
and if you have a headache, you might not want to do this. You might want to do the touch and breathe, right?
Hey, Monique, does it matter which fingers we use when we do?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't. Whatever feels comfortable for you, whatever you intuitively want to do. And then under the eye, you've got that bone again. Same thing, breathing in slowly, breathing out. I like to do it a couple of times. If you feel like doing it 3 times, go ahead. There's no fast rule there. It's really, what floats your boat. And then you go under the nose. And under the nose, it's probably easier just to use the one hand, and sort of the crevice there, whatever that's called, under the nose, and there's a point
We
right
should
there.
still be breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth, right?
Yeah. And then on your chin, so below your lower lip. And then your collarbone point. If you take your fingers and you kind of go along the collarbones, and where they sort of end, or they start, however you want to look at it, you go down about 1 inch and then 1 inch over. And you should feel a sort of sensitive area there, where a lot of people hold stress in that point. And if it feels sensitive, it means that you actually need this, that you have some blocked energy there. And so once again, I like to kind of circulate my fingers like this, go around little circles and breathing. I don't know about you, but like this just feels so good to me, right? Like that combination, right?
It's nice, yeah.
Yeah. And then you go 4 inches under your armpit. So for ladies, it's sort of where their bra strap is. You can cross over if that's comfortable, like you're doing, or you can just lower your thumbs. I like getting my thumb in here so I can really get some good pressure. And I'm breathing in. And then the last point is the top of your head. So my preference is you can sort of claw your hand, and then you cover both hemispheres with your fingers. And there's a lot of acupoints or endpoints that are up on top. And same thing, just the breathing in and the breathing out. And then you stop and you take one deep cleansing breath. And you slowly exhale. You check in with yourself and notice if there's any shift whatsoever. It can be very subtle, or it can be quite significant. Janie, do you feel anything at all?
I feel like calm, but I feel like I have more energy at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, like a very calm energy.
Yeah.
It feels nice. It feels really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you do this in a group, it's really nice too, because you're kind of picking up on everybody's calmness, right? So you kind of have that amplified effect with that. And so that's another way of doing this. Okay, so that's just with that's sort of just kind of tuning in, doing the points, right? Now you can do that as well. Let's say, like my example before, you're feeling really, I don't know, afraid of something. you can mentally focus into that fear, and you can go through the points as well. So now you're actually focusing on it, and you are lowering that stress response to whatever that emotion is that you're feeling. So that's another way. So it's the exact same thing. So just that alone, very easy for anybody to do because we don't have words. If you kind of master that, or you feel up to it, then you can start to do what we talked about before, stating your truth. So you tap and you talk, and it's really powerful if you can do it out loud. So, go into the bathroom or find a place where you have privacy, because you might be tapping about the person you're living with, and you might not want to do it in front of them. So just, I've done this. It's kind of, we call it raving, tapping and raving. I did this for somebody who really triggered me in a big way. Every time I talked to them or even thought of them, and I would just kind of let my truth go, and I wouldn't censor my words. So if I wanted to use swear words, I would just go for it. And I would just say, you, blah, 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 blah. Can't believe he did that. I'm so pissed off at you. Like, who the hell do you think you are? You go through, but ooh. And so at the end result, I'm not triggered by this person anymore because I've done this, not just once. I've had to do it several times, but it's a cumulative effect, right? So after a while, you can and then you act differently to that person, you respond differently, and they respond differently to you because your energy towards them is totally changed, right?
Wow, that's cool.
So that's a cool one.
So it'd be like, I'm so worried. I'm really worried about this big meeting that I have to attend with my boss. And then you just go through three times, 3 breaths each point, all the way down. Take stock, do it again if you need to.
Exactly. And then if you want to use, if you want to sort of go to that place of compassion, because remember I was saying, like, we judge ourselves for feeling certain things that we think we're not supposed to feel, we should be bigger than that and all that. It's that compassion, right? So it's, you can say, oh, even though I'm really disturbed by how I feel right now, I'm allowing myself to be sad. Even, and we do this like 3 times, right? As set up statements, we call them. Even though I probably shouldn't feel bad about this, you know what? I do feel bad about it, and I'm okay with how I'm feeling about this right now. So it's adding that compassion, or I allow myself, even though this really hurt me, I'm allowing myself to feel everything I feel right now, right? So you're being compassionate towards what is happening for you in that moment. I have good reason to feel this way. I did my best, and I'm really disappointed, but that's okay. That's how I feel. And so we're accepting the range of emotions that we as human beings have, and we're not judging anything good or bad. It just is what it is, right? And once you've kind of de-escalated, and you should feel calmer, and you check in again, right? It's really important to test. And anytime you're doing a tapping, I just test and mentally, okay, wow, I was really elevated before. I'm feeling pretty calm about that right now. And then you can start tapping and reinforcing. So we're creating new neural pathways now, right? So this is the exciting part, that we're actually going, you know what? Nothing's forever. And, it bugged me before, but I'm actually feeling pretty good right now. Yeah, things are good. Things will be fine. I've got this. Yeah, I'm excited about what this can bring for me. So it's doing the affirmations, but you're actually imprinting them with the tapping. You're kind of reinforcing those, as I said, those neural networks, those neural pathways, so that you can have a totally different response or perspective about something that
so could you use it for, like, if you wanted to say, I'm worthy, if you knew you didn't feel worthy, can you say what you want to feel and tap? Is that good? Or should you say, I don't feel worthy, and then kind of let that dissipate first before, okay, well, maybe I am worthy. I am worthy. What's is it better to deal with the feeling and then come into
Yeah, it's
New
the
feeling.
analogy is like a root canal, right?
Ah,
Before you put on the crown or the cap or whatever, right? You want to get rid of the gunk in there,
yeah.
right?
You
Yeah.
got to get rid of the yucky stuff. Yeah.
And get rid of the yucky stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And because you're also gonna, your brain is gonna accept it more readily. Like
Hmm.
with affirmations too, you could say something, but if you really don't believe it, your mind is going, if I'm going, oh, I'm the wealthiest, I'm a millionaire today,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
other party's going, no, you're
In
not.
the back of your head's going, yeah, right, sure. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You got
exactly.
no
You're
money in your account. Yeah.
actually defeating the purpose. But if you can kind of, accept, okay,
Okay.
that's probably a silly example, but okay, you know what? I don't have a lot of resources right now. But this isn't going to be the case forever. Things, this
Hmm.
too shall pass, and I'll find ways to, get resources. I'm a resourceful person after all.
Hmm.
I've been in this situation before, and I've gotten out of it before. And then you kind of, there's more acceptance around it.
Mm.
So, then you could sort of put out there what it is you want to,
Hmm.
to have happen. But
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
totally.
cool.
We kind of want to get sort of, that lowered intensity in terms of what's kind of going on,
Hmm.
and then
Move it
go.
out first and
Yeah,
and
creating more
then
energy in the system, because that's what we're
mm,
doing. Like we're getting rid of the guck, so there's actually more available energy to
mm,
put towards moving towards where you want to go. So your comment about I'm calm, but I actually have more energy, like that's the goal, right? Because when you're down or feeling, really, down in the dumps and everything, there's not a lot of energy in your system, right? It's hard
mhm.
to get out of bed. It's hard to take action. You procrastinate, whatever. When you've got more energy in the system that tapping can help you create, it's like, oh, hey, maybe I can do this, or there's possibilities, and you're going
Mhm.
to take inspired action because the energy's there to do it. So that's the
Yeah.
beauty of
It's a little like cleaning out your closet too. If you clean your
it. Yeah,
closet out, you make room for something new that you like better. So,
totally.
mhm,
Excellent analogy.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. How can people find out more about you, find out
Mhm.
more about your book?
Yeah, so my website's probably the best place to go, moniqueverpoort.com. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, but I'm getting that going. So I think the best bet, I have my contact information on moniqueverpoort.com, and the book is available. There's a link on my website to directly to Amazon. It's You can also go to Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, wherever any online bookseller will have it there. So yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And anything exciting and new that you want to share, or anything that we didn't get to talk about? Any last parting words for our listeners today?
Yeah, I would just say if you're feeling sort of skeptical, this is kind of weird or whatever, I just say don't write it off right away. This is gaining such a huge popularity, fan base across the world. It's not just North America. There are other countries. There's a boatload of research there. On my website, I've got a tab that has all research studies there that. Those of you who really want to see the data and see the meta studies and the any of those kind of things. There are articles there as well. I would say, check it out, be open-minded and give it a try. You have absolutely nothing to lose, and just experiment with it, and you might be really pleasantly surprised.
And get your book.
And get my book.
And get
It's
your book,
all in the
because
book.
it's full of great. And yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the science, because you mentioned it a little bit in the book too. I mean, some pretty renowned people with degrees and education and are doing this. So it's
Oh
not
yeah.
just some woo-woo thing out there. It's definitely
No.
has some meat to it, and it's something that I think is definitely worth giving a try. I mean, it's like you say, it's free. It's free to try. So
Exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
and use it with your kids. Oh my gosh, we
yeah,
have to help these kids. So please
yeah.
do consider it.
Use it with your kids, and use it to help with that whole aging process too, because that is,
Yes. Oh
aging
my
is,
gosh. Oh,
yes.
oh yeah. I mean, that's a whole other area right there, but for sure. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That we have a lot of beliefs about what it means to get older, especially as women. And they're not, let's just say they're not always good, encouraging beliefs, right? So tapping helps with that too, to really reveal the magnificent beings that we are.
Mm.
We bring so much at this stage of our life. I mean, I got into this, I was in my mid 50s, and I'm, so passionate about this. So it's never too late.
Mhm.
Anybody to try,
Yeah.
something new, or yeah, try this. So
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Monique. This has just been a delight to have you in this discussion today and to try tapping. Thank you for leading us through a tapping. And yeah, it's been wonderful to have you.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I really enjoyed it, Janie.
I am so grateful to Monique for sharing EFT tapping and all the different ways that it can make transformation in your life. I know I can't wait to try it, and I really hope this interview offered you some takeaways too. If it did, please leave a comment below and let us know. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe, hit the bell. Everything helps more people learn about this interview and all the fantastic Reinvention Ready interviews. Remember, midlife doesn't have to be a crisis. It's not too late to make the rest of your life your best life. Start today. Thank you for watching. See you soon.